I almost joined another coaching practice a year when I first started for business owners. Just very different culture.
Yeah.
It was very set on how much money you want to make and how to do more and more and more and more and more. And like that feeling just makes me want to like crawl under a table. Like I just no, I don't think that feels right. I don't think I want that. I don't want 5 clinics. I don't want to see 10 people a day. Like I want my walk in the morning. I want to take my kids to school and I want to be out at a nice time. And that doesn't feel, I think in other places, I might feel afraid to say that, like for fear of judgment, like I should be doing more. But when you say that
You're
in a
keeping yourself
call,
small. Don't keep yourself small. Remember
yeah,
that small thinking.
yes, yes, I don't feel judged. It's like everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, we're all doing this for different reasons. And you should get paid. And we definitely go in and pay attention to where you might be putting in way more time and not enough earning enough. And we get into that. Like we want to have good efficiency for your time. But ultimately, most of us aren't there for scaling giant businesses. And yet you are scaling, right?
I am.
You've hired other staff to do this stuff. There is that. But ultimately for you, it's more about freeing you up so that this business makes money and it can free you up to do some of those passion projects.
Yes, exactly.
You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlyn Neek. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. Today, I'm talking with Breanna James, an OT from Alaska who's been part of the Activate Vitality community for almost a year now. Breanna specializes in supporting neurodivergent adults. And what I love about this conversation is how she talks about creating her private practice as her own accommodation, a way to work that honors both her neurodivergent brain and her values around authentic client-centered care, and how to bring creativity back into the mundane parts of business most. This conversation is for any OT who's been feeling like they need to practice differently, who's struggling with the loneliness of solo practice, or who's wondering if they're qualified enough to work with adult populations. If you've ever felt like you're trying to squeeze yourself into a mold that wasn't quite made for you, this episode will give you permission to create something that actually fits. This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR built to support you in the day-to-day work of running your business. If you're a health or wellness practitioner, you already know the care you provide starts well before your client arrives and extends far beyond the treatment room. Jane is here to support every part of that experience. With online booking, your clients can book at the time that works for them, and with features like waitlist notifications, they'll even be able to grab last-minute openings when they pop up. It's an easy way to keep your schedule full while getting your clients the care they need. During your appointment, Jane's AI-powered documentation feature can help you thoughtfully take notes so you can be present with the person in front of you. And after appointments, you can end your time on a healing note, not on a transactional one, by simply charging the card on file and rebooking before they head out the door. I've really been embracing the AI scribe feature because it has stopped me from putting any chart notes on my to-do list. They're always done within a minute of the session. To learn more about how Jane can support you and your clients, head to jane.app/demo or follow the link in the show notes. Oh, and one last thing. If you're ready to get started with Jane, you can use my code VITALITY for a 1-month grace period on your new account. Breanna James from Alaska. You are an OT that I love talking to almost every week, and I'm excited to have you on the Brave OT podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
So for the listeners at home, Breanna is a member of Activate Vitality. And actually next, in like just over a month, you'll have been in for a year. And you told me when you first reached out that it was because of a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more? Was it my podcast? Did you hear me on somebody else's podcast?
I think at the very before your podcast, I heard you on somebody else's podcast. But then once you started your podcast, I started listening religiously. I think like I listened to it a lot because it just spoke to so much that I was doing and approaching OT in a way that other people I knew weren't approaching OT. And
What
so I just felt, oh my gosh, this is what I need to be listening to.
how would you characterize that way? I'm curious because I only see OT through the lens I see it. So I'd love to see what that looks like on your end.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think that so much of like how we're informed about doing OT, especially out of school, is told to us from so many other professions. Like this is the way you need to be OT from maybe a physical therapist standpoint, or
Yeah.
this is the way you need to OT from an administrator standpoint. And the way I wanted to do it was like wanted to work with adults. I wanted to work with neurodivergent adults specifically. And then not in this, how do I say it? Not in this super like overt way.
Here's
I
your SMART
see.
goal. Here's your worksheets. Here's your homework. Come back and see me one
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm also not linear. I would love to be. Like there's this part of me that's, oh man, I wish I could follow a plan. Like I would like I wish I could be the person that's like, here's the protocol, follow the protocol. And, like, part of me desires that, but then I'm like, I have the protocol. I'm like, I'm gonna switch this around. Like, I'm gonna
Now that I have
scramble
the
it.
protocol, I'd like to do everything but thank you. It gives me a starting place.
Yeah, like, that's all I need. I don't really wanna follow it. And so this idea that we can do OT and we can be ourselves and we can help people and we can guide them in this I don't the word that comes to mind is easy, like,
Mm.
non-forceful, and maybe it's because ACT is so much a part of how you treat, and I think listening to you, that's when I was exposed to ACT, and so it feels magical or not it just feels effortless, like we're not pushing people and forcing them to do something, we're just, like, guiding them in a nice way.
Yeah, it's respectful and
Yeah.
compassionate. And you leaves room for their authenticity because gosh, if we're not moving toward their authenticity or meeting them where they are, right? It's a way of not imposing therapy upon people, but supporting them in navigating. And often that is nonlinear, especially when they're neurodivergent. And P.S. So are we.
Yes. But yeah. I had a patient I saw them, they discharged, they came back, and they're like, "Yeah, I want more, but I still don't really know what OT is." I'm like, "Oh, I'm curious then what worked? What did you accomplish? And then why are you coming back?" Because initially when somebody says, I still don't know what it is, like I get a little bit like defensive,
Yeah,
but
me
then I'm
too.
like, "Okay, but it worked." So she found success in it. She had the outcomes.
Yeah.
And so now I'm actually cleaning my house and I'm engaging in these routines. And what's was so scary about letting people help me with these things is not so scary anymore. I'm like, "And those are our goals."
That's
And
OT. Yeah.
it is, and
That's OT for them. And
it's
what's
OT for
OT for
them.
somebody else looks totally different. And I get why they don't get that, right?
Yeah, and it's not forced upon people. So it's not so overt. Like when I worked in the hospital, people would talk about, "Oh, work your OT magic." And I think that is a lot of what OTs bring to the table. It's because we're so good at meeting people where they're at, you can't really see the work being done. We just
Right.
slowly progress them. And
Yes. I've had a
so
lot of clients who, will be like 4 sessions in and they're saying, so what again do OTs do? And I want to go, we're doing it. But they think we're just talking about their week. Like,
yes, yes,
and then talking a little bit about what's going to happen next week and how to make that go pretty a little smoother. And that can feel so organic that it's almost not important. And that is actually the beauty of it, that we're weaving it so organically and naturally into these ways of talking about occupation that just feel really normal and not imposed therapy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that listening to you talk just gave me the permission
Mm.
to do it that way,
Right.
which
Right.
was not which was a way I wanted to practice, but I wasn't seeing a lot of it done that way.
Yeah. Do you know in Within Activate Vitality, we mostly are OT business owners. It's not a requirement, but it's certainly the people who end up needing this kind of support because we're all in our own little silos of lonely practices trying to figure it out and don't have a colleague to just pop over. Hey, can I tell you about this thing that happened today? But it's also, we also do get a lot of neurodivergent OTs, specifically a lot of ADHD, but we've definitely had some OTs with autism or curious about autism. And I think it's really interesting to see how I think a lot of us have started private practices from that place of wanting to work in a more authentic way or in a more inclusive way or in a more client-centered way that the big systems that employ us traditionally don't always leave room for. And I'm curious about your path to private practice. I know that was mine. It wasn't like one day I'm going to have a giant business. It was, oh, I think I can work this way anymore. And I actually want to be more present for my kids. So I need to work a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that very much speaks to my path. I've worked in all different settings. And I think from a long time ago, I had this dream of going into private practice, but it didn't feel rushed. It was just this dream that kind of sat there. And I never really worked full time. It was always like 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about it. I wanted to do it. But then the last place I worked for prior to getting that job, I really thought that was going to be it.
Mm.
This was going to be the place where I stayed forever. It was going to be perfect. I was going to love it. And then I started and I was like, oh no, oh no, this is not
My dream
what
job's not so
this is
dreamy.
not, it's not so dreamy. And I'm neurodivergent, I grew up that way. I knew it. And it could be really challenging for me.
Yeah.
And in that setting, I felt a lot of these things come up, things that really upset me to witness. And I thought, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I've tried all the other options. This was it. This was my last option for working for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I started dreaming and making things happen. I started getting my business license and I started making my website, which gave me life. I was just like, okay, I'm not starting my practice yet, but I'm going to start making a website. I'm going to start making writing up what I do, thinking about who I want to see, start telling people about it. But way before I started, I just started telling people about it. This is something that I wanted to do.
That in itself is a really good step because I think a lot of people plug away and dream and perfect, but the fear is to tell anybody. That feels like the most vulnerable. But that's the thing that actually gets you to commit. No, I'm doing this because I told
I'm
people.
doing this. I'm doing this. And I had to. At that point, there was and I feel like that's been my entrepreneurial journey, which is there's no other option. In it, that's scary, but also empowering because this is what I want to do. Nobody else can give me. This doesn't exist anywhere. And nowhere else is going to fit my needs. I'm a slow riser. I like to take my time with things in the morning. I don't do well seeing a bunch of clients every day, all the time. And yeah, so knowing that wasn't going to work, I knew I had to do something different. And whatever it was going to be, it had to fit my needs for home too, and being home with the kids and being with them more and having a flexible schedule.
For sure. So, what you're saying is that starting a private practice was your own accommodation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to interject here. If you are hearing Breanna's story and thinking, hey, this is the kind of support I need too, you're not alone. Like Breanna, most of the OTs in the Activate Vitality program came to us feeling pretty successful on paper, but things weren't fitting anymore. Maybe they were feeling miserable running businesses that weren't working in businesses that were running them instead of serving them. After 5 years of helping OTs move from that sense of being stretched far and maybe a little bit crispy to vitality, we analyzed what actually creates lasting change. The results might surprise you. It's not just mindset work or business strategy, it's both. And really, they're inseparable. Our 2025 analysis shows the real tangible results our participants get. Things like switching from 6 days to 4-day work weeks, to hiring staff like Breanna has, or moving from that sense of I'm so lazy when they actually need to rest to genuine self-compassion. We're breaking up that connection between achievement as self-worth and finding deeper, more meaningful ways of showing up in our lives and our businesses. So download the 2025 Activate Vitality report from the link in the show notes. And maybe you'll find out that Activate Vitality is the missing piece in your business evolution.
Yeah. And I
love it.
honestly, you asked me this the other day. You said, what works for you? What things do you use to focus or to help you pay attention or be productive? And I had a hard time answering that.
Mm.
And I think it's because my whole life has been accommodation. Like I've never not made accommodations for myself.
They're just so innate that you don't notice them.
Yes.
You're just constantly accommodating. Me too. I feel that way for sure.
Constantly. My
Yeah.
whole life is set up in a way that works for me. And it generally, it always has been because I haven't had a choice. Like from a very young age, I had to do things differently in order to get through school, in order to get through work, in order to be able to do the things that I wanted to do.
Do you know Rebecca Ray Hodgson? She is an neurodivergent OT who helps neurodivergent people and helps practitioners be more divergent informed. And she posted on one of the social media platforms the other day asking how people make bathing or showering lower demand. And I actually rattled off a whole bit. It hadn't occurred to me that I had made accommodations for bathing until I saw her post, and I'm like, oh, do you know what I do? I actually have a bath in the middle of the day a few times a week. I don't make it an everyday demand. I do this a few times a week. It's just turn on the water, put in something that smells nice, some Epsom salts, because I know that's like maybe helpful for my nervous system. Have maybe I do a partial bath. Maybe I don't wash my hair at that point. Then I put on a terry cloth towel so I don't have to dry myself. Then I put my hair in a terry cloth turban so that it will mostly dry itself. And then I might sit and scroll for a bit. And then I might have a drink of water. Maybe I'm listening to a podcast. I may or may not do the next steps. Maybe I just brush my hair and let it go on its own and put some comfy clothes on at some point, but it's never get up, have a shower, do all the things all at once. It's just this, oh, it can happen when it wants to in the amount that it wants to without having to do all the things. And I'm like, who knew? It didn't occur to me that was actually an accommodation for whatever neurodivergence is showing up in that.
Yeah. Well, it's taxing. And I think that it's so ingrained in us that we have to do things one way.
Yeah.
But I think that's also why OTs are so great at working with neurodivergent people is because we know things are done differently.
Yeah.
We like whether you work in acute care or outpatient or skilled nursing, I think about all of the ADLs you do with people, all of the showers you do with people, brushing teeth, like the ways I've seen people do these things at onset, I'm like, this is because of your stroke. And no, this is the way
I've always done it. Yeah.
This is the way they've always done it. And it's so different from me, but it seems to get the job done.
Yeah. So you were saying that you had been listening to me for a long time before joining Activate Vitality.
Yeah.
What made you one day say, let's do this? It's time.
Yeah, there were a few things. So last year I had a major surgery, had to take time off. I knew I had to grow the business.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, but I knew that without the right support, if I wasn't careful, I would very easily get burned out. That would happen. That has happened. That would happen. So I needed support. And so I had always wanted to reach out and I always wanted to join. But then the other part of that was that either on I think it was on a Facebook post, I saw you mention that you had a kiddo with type 1 diabetes. And I have a kiddo with type 1 diabetes, which is such a unique experience. And so like when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to. Like Carlyn is an occupational therapist. She's an entrepreneur. She's neurodivergent and she has a kid with like type 1. There's nobody else probably in the world that is going to get my life better than her. So I knew that after that help, like after that surgery, coming back, wanting to grow, like I needed support and I was lonely. I was working on my own. Like I wanted community. And that I feel like that's really hard when you're a solo practitioner.
It really is. It feels lonely. And then even when you reach out to other people and try to connect, they don't quite get what you're doing
No.
sometimes or don't quite get the challenges or don't have time or you don't want to burden them with your questions about your business. And it's great to find community with other people who get it for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you did reach out when you did. And I didn't know of you before that minute. You were a watcher, not an interactor.
You're just a watcher.
Yeah.
Do that a lot. I'm a lurker.
You're totally a lurker. But you contribute so much to the community. That's what I like about it. It's the coaching model I had learned from was that you have these group calls and you basically give everybody their turn to coach them individually. But the way we do it is we're all available to share and contribute to each other, right? And I'm certainly there to provide any guidance. I'm not just stepping back and letting it all happen, but at the same time, I recognize there's a whole bunch of skill and experience that's international, that's coming from many different places, that I know everybody's story. So it's nice to be able to stitch everybody together and share. And you contribute in such a beautiful way from your experiences or just the way you think about certain challenges other people came up against. And you go, yeah, like I can totally see I've been there. And once I started thinking about it this way, or I started looking at it that way, I made this shift. And people go, oh, okay. Like we learn socially, right? That's our most powerful way.
Just little things like the other day in a call, somebody was talking about their weekend mornings and how weekend mornings can feel crazy or when they don't know what they're going to do. And one of the strategies is I just have to journal. I have to journal about it first. And then I know, like, that gives me some clarity. But so it could be that easy. And maybe I don't need to sit down and make the plan for the whole day.
Doesn't have to be a big to-do list.
It doesn't have to be a big to-do. I just need to do some, like, vacuuming of my thoughts, like, cleaning them up a little bit before I go out.
Yeah. Yeah. And we know that power from the people we help, that when our thoughts are naturally pretty spinny, especially ones that are pretty attached to emotion, and then once you give language to them by writing or talking to someone, it just starts to sort them a bit. They just start to define them a little bit more. They become a little bit clearer or a little bit more joined or a little bit like, yeah, actually, this is where I spin out super stressed. But once I map it out, it actually makes sense that this is the next step instead.
Yeah. I'm curious, have those group calls changed a lot within the history of Activate Vitality?
I think they have. There's a core essence of group collaboration and support that has always been there. But I think it changes. It's a community, right? So the community changes with who's there and how they show up. And sometimes I need to be a stronger leader to keep things flowing or to make sure everybody gets, if they came with something, that we get to it. And other times we just roll and it's super smooth and there's just a culture. I think there's a culture of openness that I think actually ACT sets the tone for, but also just who I am. People get to know what I'm like, and that sets, I think, a tone of openness and curiosity and support. And so I think that has been an ongoing thing, but the individuals who come to the calls certainly make it change over time. And as I get feedback too over time, because it's easy for me to go in, like really go with the flow. And sometimes there are people like, hey, I actually have liked a little bit more structure. And so then I try to go, okay, yeah, what are some just enough structure bits that I can do that are helpful for everybody without still, I don't want it to be super structured, and that we can actually maybe do the structure in a bit of individual work and structuring. That's where I'm going. I did a big analysis recently of all of the Activate Vitality calls that I've been using Fathom to record for the last year and a half or so, and knowing that there's data in there. Like, I don't plan to publish these things. I'm not sharing the recordings with anybody, but it's so that I can know what happens and so I can see which transformations are happening or the feedback people are giving or the outcomes they're getting and themes and stuff. And so I hired a teenage helper who's awesome. She also helps us give our dog a bath, our dog skin condition. And she needs like medicated baths twice a week. And so I've actually outsourced that, putting my entrepreneurial brain on for how I'm coping with home tests. And so then she's happy to have more hours. I'm like, ooh, actually, could you download these transcripts and put them over here? And then I could use within Claude, there's projects that don't go out to teach the whole language model. Just within a project, you can keep that contained. So I got Claude to help me analyze all of that. And one of the outcomes I came with was giving it a bit more structure to onboarding and then checkpoints. Whereas right now I have it, hey, book yourself a one-on-one call somewhere in the beginning and somewhere in the middle, and we'll do somewhere. Basically works out to be quarterly, but I really leave it up to people to book those with me because you'll reach out when you need me. I don't want to create pressure that you need to be at this stage by this time when I reach out, but I'm recognizing that sometimes people get lost in the flow, that I actually need to do that reaching out, and I need to say, hey, we're going to meet on this date, and that gives them something to work toward, and so that they can have the momentum that they're coming for.
I think that would be really nice.
Yeah. And if that's not the right fit for somebody, like happy to adjust, like happy to be more flexible. But yeah, not being afraid to provide a little bit more structure, I think, is what I'm getting from that. That's where people are always say they want accountability. And then really when it comes down to it, they don't want me nagging them. Like,
no, isn't that us neurodivergent adults? We just want, we want some structure. And then it's, no, we don't. No, I don't. No, I don't.
In fact, do not give me that care plan.
Do not tell me what to do. Yeah, tell me what to do, but don't.
Exactly. Love hate with it all.
Yeah.
And that's the skill that we have as clinicians, as coaches, that is trying to feel that out and provide that where it's needed and not being afraid to provide some leadership when required. Do you find with your business, I know you focus mainly on the neurodivergent adults, but you've also had some interest in some of this and some of that. And what is it that you'd like to be doing?
Yeah. I think it's always with neurodivergent adults. That is, I have found my passion there. It feeds my soul. It's what I read about all the time. It's the research I do, the work I do. And so I want to stick with that, but I want to expand to have more offers for people. Like a really big one for me would be just some affordable class or course for people who maybe don't have insurance or who aren't ready to start OT, but need something, whether it's education, whether it's like some group coaching. I haven't really decided which direction. I get lots of ideas. Like I get lots of ideas,
Yes.
but can have a hard time moving in that direction. And right now, part of me holds myself back a little bit because I'm like, okay, I need to really be there for my employees, make sure they have good systems, make sure I'm giving them the support they need before I add something else.
That makes sense because when you joined, you really were kind of on the verge of wanting to hire employees, or in the last year, you've hired 2 and you're building in more systems to support that, which has you very much engaged in the doing of those things, and then hiring administrative support and all of that stuff requires a lot of input from you and a lot of executive functioning as well. And so it makes sense that you didn't go and lump in a new product at the same time, because that's a phase that requires a lot of input. And then ultimately, once you've got that going, then you can pull back from some of that clinical work and use your time to create those other things.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that one of the things that stands out to me from, I think, a couple of group calls talking about hiring is, okay, when you hire somebody, you have to really consider the amount of time it takes to support them.
Yeah.
So you might have to drop back on your caseload. And I'm truly trying to keep that in mind so I can support them, but also not burn out, not go too much, not take on too much. But I really would love to offer, whether it's a course to just any neurodivergent adult or other OTs who are looking to get into this space, but having something and being in the US and knowing that insurance is changing, like,
Mhm.
there are lots of changes happening with payers. And knowing that, I'm thinking, man, I need to be thinking about other ways I can support people outside of the insurance model because these people that need support don't just go away because there's no way to pay.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind is headed.
I like that
Ideas
thinking
are
because there's when you're doing that one-to-one insurance-based work with clients, you've got a capacity. You've only got this many hours, you only got this many employees, you can only do this much. And then you're also restricted by what will they pay for and how your services fit within those molds. And so it is a different way of thinking when you're thinking outside of that model, and whether it's within OT or also whether it's more like educational or coaching as well. And I like that you're thinking of that ahead of the game, and because diversifying income streams is really important because, like you said, poof, could go away one
could go
funding
away.
source, and you might be scrambling to even conceptualize this in another way. So to already have a sense of, yeah, I actually know how to do that because I created that. Maybe it's even just that one workshop that maybe I ran it live and then put the recording up on my website for people to be able to pay to watch later. Like simple, but there's a bunch of stuff that goes into learning to do that, right? You're learning how to record something, collect the signups, how to get paid for that, how to post that on your website, how to promote that. There's all those things that you go, now that I know how to do that one thing, I could actually do that with a course or a group or another sort of format.
Yeah, and that's a lot of learning. It's like
It is.
a lot of learning, and now being where I am at now in the business, knowing how long these things can take
Yeah.
to come to fruition, to really get the ball rolling. I don't feel super rushed. I feel like I'm in a good headspace to just figure it out, play around with some stuff. The other day, I was just playing around with ChatGPT and just talking out my ideas. And I made a mock course, and that feels good. Like that creativity, like for a while when I was burnt out, that wasn't happening. I
No.
wasn't getting the desire to create any, like I would have a thought and then it would just disappear. I wasn't pulled to engage in it. And I know things are going much better when I am like, "Ooh, I have this idea. Ooh, let me play around." Because it's like it's playful. I'm playing, and
Yeah.
that to me says, "Okay, I'm doing something right. Things are improving. I'm not in the place I was last year."
That is really good. Actually, I take those fleeting ideas and sometimes I put them on a sticky on the wall somewhere. And I've got a wall play in our, or like maybe it's a workshop or maybe it's something that play in our business processes is a thing I put up there. And I love that you're highlighting right there that from a place of burnout, we don't feel creative, yet we still feel this pressure. Because I remember when we first met, it was like, I need to expand my business. I need to hire employees. I need to offer other services. There was all of it was really important. And I love that as you became less burnt out, and I think you were coming out of burnout when we met,
Yeah.
but that kind of as you recover and you notice that creative and playful spark come, and then you can start to go, oh, wait, no, it doesn't all have to happen at the same time. This can actually wait, but I can still dabble and play toward it while I'm prioritizing this. And
Yeah.
you didn't have to hire the two employees all at once. You started with one instead. Initially, you were thinking two employees and I got to do these things.
Which is too much for me.
Yeah.
That is too much. I've been there. I know where those things lead. And playing helps me with the hard stuff. It gives me life to call an insurance company and tell them they need to pay me or writing up my evaluation like that. Play is really important. I don't know if you've ever read it's a really old book. It's called Free Play. It's
No.
all about it's like I had to read it during a dance class, like an improv dance class that I took in college,
Yeah.
and I didn't read. I'm a person who reads parts. If I have to do a reading for school, I'm like, "Okay, read the beginning, maybe read the end, get the
Mhm.
gist." But that book, I read the whole thing, and then I read it again when I left college, and I it's such a good book about the importance of play and creating, and I actually read it as I was starting my business.
So what, for the person who might be hearing this in a more concrete way, that business is serious. We don't play around. If you're taking business serious, you're not playing around. Can you describe what you mean or what the book means when you think about playfulness and bringing playfulness to your work?
Ooh, playfulness. Like when I think about play, really good play, we're not sitting down and planning every portion of it.
Yeah.
In some instances, there are people that do, this is the way it's going to go. We're going to do this step and this step. For me, that doesn't feel good. But when I'm being playful, it's like I'm not sitting down with the plan. I don't know how this is necessarily going to end. I don't know the final product, but I'm giving myself to this thing and I'm allowing myself to enjoy it. Like I want to enjoy it. I'm going to be present. And yeah, I'm gonna allow it to support me in this moment. The other thing that book talks about though, because it's really catered to like musicians and dancers, like improvising,
Yep.
is that in order to improvise as a jazz musician or a dancer, you actually have to have the skill first. So you don't just, if you don't know how to play an instrument, it's going to be really hard to improvise. So you do have to have some knowledge and then you can just take it where you want it to go. So like I know what being an OT is.
Yep.
And I also know now these core things that it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
And so the playful side of just, ooh, what if I put this here? What if I put that there? What does this offer? What could it look like? I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
But
I think that I'm hearing in there that in order, and I think about my own journey too, right? Like we went to university and we learned about this concept of OT. We learned how to think like OTs. But it wasn't until we got out into some jobs that we were like, oh, okay, now I see how this plays out more in action and how that I did these different placements and learned a little, tried to figure out how that was playing out in those
yes,
environments. And then I'm in this job and then I'm in this job and you start to see the core OT stuff that's coming through. And that's a little bit like the painters, like a lot of the masters learned by actually having to replicate masterful paintings too, right? Beyond just learning color theory and technique, but then actually copying other paintings. Or a lot of musicians end up doing covers in bars in the beginning. And then as they get that confidence and their own style and their own way of doing it, then you start to go, okay, this is my way. And we don't get too fussed about this over here. And that's kind of constraining over there. Or maybe that doesn't fit this population so much. And oh, here I am starting a business because I can't do that anywhere else.
yeah,
Yep. So we start to learn how to do that and what's required. And that it was playful for you to actually dive into playing with a website as a way of defining who you are and how you want to show up in your business.
And no, exactly. That creative, that felt playful. It feels playful when I'm creating a course just for me, for the purposes of creating. I'm getting in there, I'm exploring, I'm using my knowledge, but also using this other cool thing to help me. And I'm not rushing. Like there's no rush. I don't have a deadline. And that feels good.
Most definitely. This reminds me of a conversation. May I take a coaching moment for a second?
Please.
I'm thinking back to a conversation. And again, this is probably for a future time, right? Like right now, you're working on your processes with your staff and kind of getting that feeling really solid. But I remember us talking at a time about what, like, not being exactly sure what that future offer that goes beyond your specific clients or beyond your specific one on ones, what that might look like. But we started talking about as you're supporting people one on one, making little bites. So you might make a resource or a worksheet or maybe it's a little video that's like, hey, remember we did that thing today? I'm just going to record it for you. Or here's your little pep talk for whatever, or a reminder about that self-compassion thing we were talking about. And that you could actually start to collect these assets if you make them for individual clients. But when you make them, maybe don't put their name on it. And is it a video bite? Is it a script? Is it an audio? Is it a little sheet? And then you just start to collect those, and those turn into a thing later. where you're like, oh, I actually have a resource library. Maybe some people might want access to that. Or maybe that's a free download, or maybe that's a little mini course.
I did start doing that.
You did?
I've
Oh,
done
good.
it. Yes, I have. So I've
Awesome.
had a few iterations of it in the way that I've done it. After that conversation, I would have a session with somebody, and if there was something that really sparked, like really they got it and they had this aha moment, or I felt, oh my gosh, I explained that in a way that was so helpful, then I would go and I would record it. So that's
Nice.
one way I've done it. But the new way I'm trying to explore that is because I use Heidi Help for my sessions.
Yep.
I'll go in and I have my template. I create the template for the session itself. But then I'll go and I'll say, create a handout of main concepts in session, or
Oh,
create a summary
yeah, yeah.
of the main concepts in the session, basically, and make it as a patient handout.
Smart.
And that is cool. So
So
what
you do
I
that right in Heidi.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool. So you must
which
have
I
the paid version.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So
It's
that's an app that does note taking for you. You turn it
uh-huh,
on, it does creates the note, and then there are options within there that you can then say, make a doctor's note, make a client email follow up, make a summary report, add in your other notes, and get it to make a summary. And it's all health, privacy, meets all the standards,
yeah,
that sort of thing. But I think that's so smart. Turn that into a patient handout.
yes. It's fun. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it also gives me, like, confidence that what I said was what I said. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you leave a session and you're like, "I thought that was great." But was it actually
What
was it
was
actually great? Maybe I made it up. And then I'll go back and I'll read the summary and,
yeah.
"Oh, that is what I said. That's exactly what I said, and that
Mhm.
sounds pretty good. That's helpful." So
Maybe.
I like that, and it feels a little bit just one less step.
Yeah. I used Heidi before I switched to Jane. I was talking with another client recently because I mentioned that I started using Claude, and he said, yeah, it seems that all these AI helpers have female names, right? So I like that Claude is a male name for a change because it's not just
Good.
women who are helpers, right? And so we were chatting about that. But Jane, I switched to using Jane's AI scribe, which they're ongoingly developing too, because I can foresee them kind of having these different iterations. But a client the other day asked me, hey, you have like transcripts of these sessions? I said, yeah, I do. And she said, you said like last one, you said some things that I was like, oh my God, I need to. And so I downloaded the raw transcript that doesn't say who's talking, it blends everything together if it misunderstood a word. But I'm like, oh, that's what she wanted. And it's been super helpful for her. And I've got no concerns with it. I can appreciate that some people might worry that it opens up to liability, or if I misstepped, or if I, but to me, this is all transparent. And if this can be an accommodation that supports people to go find that thing where we started talking about this, and that was the light bulb moment to read through that again, is a great reminder. But I love that you're then turning it into here's just that part.
Yeah, yeah, here it is. We all need that repetition and to be able to look at things at a different time. As much as you want to be present in therapy or wherever you are, sometimes you miss things. And or for whatever reason you can't be present. So I think that being able to go look at it later is really nice, especially when you're working with different types of learning.
Yeah.
People who might have a hard time with auditory processing and doing telehealth, that has its other challenges.
Okay.
So they might be on a break at lunch, and so they might feel pressured and rushed. So being able to send that handout, have it is nice.
Yeah. And that making it creative and going, what else might I do with this? So that's where play
Yeah.
can come in. Are there other ways that you're adapting some kind of dry businessy bits to make it feel a little bit more playful in your nervous system?
Yeah. Watching. So I don't know what happened. For a long time, I would make it a point to watch funny things. Start my day at funny things. And then at some point it got really serious. So recently, like the other day, I had to do boring paperwork and I just had Schitt's Creek playing on playing in the background. And I got through so much boring work.
That is
I was so happy. Like, I was so happy, and I used to do that, and I stopped, and so that's one way.
I
Or
love
and
that.
another one is, like, taking calls on walks, like, that feels really nice to include both of those things. If I maybe have an initial consultation with a client, scheduling it for a time that I'm walking versus sitting in front of the computer is really nice. Or, like, when one of my therapists needs support, taking that call on my walk, I really like that. That feels nice. It feels like I have more to give them. I don't feel rushed.
That's super smart. For people who haven't watched Schitt's Creek, the thing that's really special about it, Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, like all these people who are super interesting and Canadian, they and have like long comic history as well. They came together and they created something that essentially a world where it's an inclusive world that's it's not about preaching that to people. It's hilarious, but the heart, like the thing that feels good about watching it is that somebody might be gay, somebody might be bisexual. We don't even have to label it, right? Might be neurodiverse. Somebody, there can be so many things, but ultimately nobody's ever not included for it. That it's a place where all of the isms, like racism or sexism or transphobia or any of those things just don't exist. It's just omitted. And it's a funny show, but it's got that kind of Canadian humor that's a little like borderlines on that British humor too, that can be a little slow and witty, that it doesn't like takes a few episodes to get into.
It does. At first, people were talking about it a long time ago, and I tried it and I wasn't into it. But then people kept talking about it, and I love those actors. And I'm like, I'm going to do it again. And I must have hit on the right episode. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. And I love it. And I hadn't thought about it like in the way that you said, but that's so true. It's just everybody's together. It's just, it's a good show. It's a good show. The humor is, yeah, it's just a good show.
So
Makes
do
me
you
happy.
like to do a bit of occupational analysis here?
Yes.
Do you think that my impression is that your nervous system feels safer? Not only is it funny, but the humor allows it to lighten up. It gives your brain a little bit of a fidget, something else to listen to while you're doing a mundane task. But also, I'm thinking that there's something happening within your nervous system around the safety and humor. And I don't know, how do you receive it?
I receive it. It feels light. It feels honest. It feels honest. Like my laughs feel even I guess the other piece of this, like my nervous system receives it. I like the background sound. Like I like the imagery. I like the
There's some
sounds or
predictability to
lack
the
of
imagery.
sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really was it the mayor and his wife? I really like their house. It reminds me of like growing up and going to people's home, like friends' homes. And it's not perfect. It's not like aesthetically perfect.
I'm sure there's an ambrosia salad in there somewhere with marshmallows.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you can almost smell it. And even the dirty motel, I can smell the mustiness of it. It's like
And the old hotel keys that are like diamond shaped keychains. That's
yeah.
familiar.
Like so just there's so many things in that show that I can feel maybe.
Yeah.
And it's not too loud. I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of maybe because I'm always watching kids shows right now. It's like a YouTube video about baseball or a YouTube video about Minecraft. And it's so much. It's so loud and it's offensive to my nervous system. Like Schitt's Creek is just I don't know. It just feels good.
I would love for listeners to, if they're on a podcast platform that you can comment, I'd love to know what your comfort show is. Because I've learned in all of my years of mental health work with adults that people have a comfort show. I've heard so often from people with depression, it's Friends, like old episodes of Friends. For me, it's actually Grey's Anatomy, which doesn't have those soft tones, but I turn like actually watch it to go to sleep. I turn the brightness way down and I turn the volume down. And then the show end is abrupt enough that it's startling for me, but I just close my laptop and continue sleeping. At that point, I've been asleep for 45 minutes. But it's like these old friends who are all kind of finding their way, messing things up, figuring it out as healthcare providers, achieving, trying new things. And I don't know, there's something about that, but I would love to hear what other people's comfort shows are.
Over the last years, I've started to do more true. I fall asleep to cold case stuff. And
really?
that I do. I fall asleep. That's generally what
also murders that are unsolved where the murder is still out there in the world.
I generally fall asleep to those things. And it's not healthy. But what I like about it is the voices are very soft. There's this one I listened to was like The Vanished. And again, they're really negative, but the sound is perfect for falling asleep. Her voice is so predictable and everything is so predictable. And it's just not too much. But I also realize that's probably not healthy. So I'm trying to go back to what I used to do, like 30 Rock. I used to wake up in the morning in grad school and I'd get my coffee and I'd watch an episode of 30 Rock. And that just made my day.
That's awesome. So when you say that it's probably not healthy to watch those cold cases, is there anything about it? Like, is it having a detrimental effect for you? Like having nightmares or?
No nightmares. But I don't know. I feel like that can't be great.
I don't know. Until it's being a problem, I would take it.
I'm worried it's like infusing itself into my like body.
Subliminal messages.
Yeah.
You're secretly going to become the Alaska OT murderer.
Yes. Or just like it's have this like sad view of the world.
That is so interesting. And for the people listening who are like, oh my gosh, you should never have a screen on when you're going to sleep, we can each share some of why we are actually totally fine with it. For me, it's my ADHD brain's just busy, right? And so I need to give it a fidget. I need to just give it a little job that's not hard so that I'm not spinning out on my to-do list or all the things that went wrong in that day. And I actually don't worry about the screen. I do turn the light down. I have it on my laptop. I mostly close my eyes, like I watch for a bit, but I worked with a sleep specialist who said my problem is actually I need to be putting actually more light into my eyes at the end of the day because I have this advanced sleep phase disorder where we needed to actually turn all the sleep hygiene stuff on its head and help me shift my sleep. My sleep wants to be early, fall asleep early, wake up early. And we needed to shift it later because I don't enjoy getting up at 3 a.m. And so that's been a way that I'm feeling good about it. And she's like, yeah, she's like ADHD. They need something to do with their brains to fall asleep. It's fine. Don't even worry about it. How do you see it?
I see it the same way. When you have a baby and they're like, my pediatrician, I loved him. He fed his best. That is best. Like your baby needs to, like this idea that sleep is what you're going after. And let's not get too judgy about how people get that sleep. Yeah. Because while we're trying to, I think we can get caught up in like how things should be done. As OTs, as medical providers, we push like the way it should be done, the way it should be done. And then you're into a year of this and a patient's still not getting sleep because it's this, we're trying to push it in this right way. And I'm the same way, like my brain gets busy. Yeah. And sometimes when your brain is that busy, it's like you get so hooked and then you start worrying about not sleeping and worrying about the next day. And I'm like, well, if listening to a podcast for an hour, because I set the timer so it stops after an hour, if listening to a podcast for an hour is going to gain me potentially an hour more of sleep, then that to me seems fine and seems good. And I know one of my sons, he requires an audiobook to fall asleep. And without that, he might be laying awake for 2 hours. So I'm like, yes, we will be listening to an audiobook for as long as he needs it because what he needs is sleep, not,
a perfect sleep hygiene handout with all the checkboxes.
Yeah. That would be great if I didn't need. That would be great if I could go to bed without this. But the fact of the matter is I do need it and it does help.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's what I do with my patients a lot is like finding the thing that actually supports them and works versus everything we're told that we should do.
Releasing the shame of the shoulds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm totally with you. And that's one of those things that not everybody understands about ADHD is that, for one, surely I've dropped balls today. Like, it's guaranteed. I missed some stuff, and it's all going to come back to haunt me in the evening. And also a little bit of that rejection sensitivity kind of vibe of, oh shoot, did I really say it that way? Oh my God. That came out of my mouth. They must be, or that reaction where they went, oh shoot, I totally messed that up. They must be really angry now. Like, I'm gonna totally, and like I can spin out, especially in the nighttime where you're just less rational, right? You're unmasked, you're tired, and those thoughts can really spin out into this place of, oh crap, it's all a disaster. My life's a disaster.
Yes.
I've messed everything up. I should probably shut down my business and run away tonight.
Right. Don't go out of the house tomorrow. And that thing I said 5 years ago in that staff meeting.
Oh, yes. Surely they're all still thinking about it. They're still meeting about me.
Yes. Yes.
And then we build the connections, because that's why this happened and this happened and this happened. See, this always happens.
Yes. And you're laying there forever and ever and ever. And that's with therapy and doing a lot of work. And at some point it's okay. Let me just use the thing that works.
Yeah.
And go to
Little
bed.
Schitt's Creek isn't going to hurt us.
No, it's just not. It's not going to hurt us. But staying awake for 2 hours, replaying every embarrassing thing that happened during the day will hurt me. That it's not good. Not good for anybody.
Is there anything else? You've got all of the OTs in the world listening, maybe at least 100 of them. Is there anything else you want to share about stuff you're thinking about, stuff you're dreaming about, stuff that you'd like to connect with people about, stuff we've been working on? This is your open invitation.
I think that since entering the space of working with adults, like neurodivergent adults, I realize how many adults need our services. Occupational therapy services, not anybody else. They've done therapy, they've done talk therapy, and frequently in my business, I get referrals from talk therapists. They're referring their clients to me because they've made the progress they can. And so I think a lot of OTs worry, like, oh, are we going to, if I get into this space with adults, is it going to look too much talk therapy? And I want to know, because you're not a psychologist. You're not a counselor. You are an occupational therapist. Yeah. And we walk around with that lens. And so people need your support. And so if you're thinking you want to work with that population, do it. They need us. They needed us a long time ago. And yeah, you can get more certifications. You can get more education in ADHD or autism or whichever population you want to work with. That's fine. But I think it's also important to know that you probably already have it. You already have that knowledge, and just the way we approach things is helpful, like helping people problem solve, like analyzing activities. People need us. People need OT, and it's skilled, it's useful, it's evidence-based. Yeah. And you don't have to call, like, a coach is wonderful, but you also can call yourself an occupational therapist and work with these people. You don't have to call yourself something different.
Yes, you don't have to get another. I think we end up kind of building these frames, right? These kind of frames of how we see other people providing these services out there. So this person is an ADHD coach specialist with this ICF certification. And so that's what me helping adults with ADHD needs to look like. Or this psychologist does this, and that's what, or I have OTs coming to me too that they're really into something like a model that's more of an integrative practice, or something where they're bringing a lot more polyvagal theory or mindfulness or something. And they're like, but can I do that as an OT? Or do I need to go, like, maybe people are often seeking those certifications so they can legitimize themselves in that domain outside of OT. And I'm always going, no, this is all OT. If we are doing these things to support function, to support occupational engagement, that's what makes it OT. We can do any number of things. There's actually not a whole lot we can't do if the goal is supporting occupational engagement, what does this person
Yes.
want to or need to be doing in their life? And we can bring in all these tools to support them in getting there. So maybe it's using some motivational interviewing, maybe it's using some ACT, maybe it's using problem solving. Like, we're still looking through that lens of whether it's like CMOP or the PEO, or looking at this person and their occupations, their drivers and their motivations, and the things that are facilitating engagement when they do, and the things that are getting in the way when they don't. And we're all looking at it through that lens. And then we've got a whole bunch of cool tools that can help us get there. And that's just OT.
Yes, it doesn't have to be anything else. Yes, as long as we're coming with that lens of helping, the goal is occupational engagement,
Yeah.
then that is OT. I don't have to justify every single thing I do because that's the goal. And we have advanced degrees. I'm not saying there's not need for continuing education and to
Oh.
further. Obviously, if you're working with a new population, you should know who you're working with.
Yes, we have to
But
be responsible
we
practitioners.
have to be responsible, but that also makes us is why we're appropriate to work with neurodivergent adults, is because we are
Absolutely.
responsible and we are careful. And so that's what I would say. Like, people
I do too.
exactly with what you have right now, you don't have to go out and spend loads of money and loads of time to get a new cert.
Do you know? And I found too, because I also am a parent of a neurodivergent kid or two. And I was in a parent group and people were asking questions on Facebook group. And obviously, right, our little neurodivergent kids don't come out of nowhere. The stork didn't usually bring them. And so parents are learning about their own ADHD or autism in the process, and or other types of stuff that's going on for them that kind of comes in families. And I remember one time mentioning that I'm an occupational therapist, and I totally help adults with this. And I think I was in an American group, and people were all over me. They were like, "What? You do this? You're an occupational?" I didn't know adults could get occupational therapy. I didn't know. And then I was like, "Oh shoot, no, I can't be your occupational. Oh shoot, I need to go like undercover a little bit here." But they were so excited because a lot of them are getting these services for their kids and didn't realize they could get help too. They didn't even know that OTs work with adults. They think about OT in the little bucket that they know of it. And so it's actually not too hard to get adults, especially adults with kids, on board.
It's not. But I hear the same thing. Oh, I didn't even know OTs could do that. I didn't know I could get OT as an adult. But I think, like, yes, our kids need support. But I think about, like, gosh, all the ways our executive functioning skills are challenged throughout the day as parents. And we have to be the brains of our children. Like, I
And the
think
pancreases sometimes
and the
too.
pancreases. Like, we have to be the pancreases, like when you have a kiddo with type 1, like we do, like, you gotta be and you're, like, constantly thinking, and then you have to be the brain, like, "Did you forget your jacket? Did you forget your shoes? Yes, get all the things together." And then if you have ADHD
Yourself.
or you're autistic, it's just, "Oh my god, it's only been an hour. It's only 8 o'clock." And that just is so taxing. And without any support or, like, actual helpful strategies, like, that's really hard.
Yeah. And there's
It
no
is
one
really
size
hard.
fits all for that.
I always, like, joke, they have all these books about executive functioning or building habits, which are great. But I also think there's this expectation that as adults, you should just be able to read a book and then follow the rules, and you'll be okay. I'm
Which
like,
of us are finishing books?
who's finishing a book? Who can figure out what to do from that book?
Yeah.
And generally, they're like 10 steps ahead of where adults are actually. And I'm like, yeah, if people could read a book and follow through with all the recommendations, then ADHD wouldn't even be a thing. But that's not what's happening. So
That's
they
not
need
what-
support. They need help.
Yes, totally. Can I ask you, for people who are listening who maybe were like you, that have been kind of like, Activate Vitality does sound like a cool thing that maybe I'll need one day, but they're still lurking. Could you tell them what might be helpful to know about what we do in there, what you needed to know?
There's a lot. I think one of the things is, like, how comfortable it feels joining a group coaching call.
It's a little like Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. Like, people are very real. I don't feel like I go in there and people are masking. I don't feel forced to mask. I can make mistakes and say things and it's accepted. Like, I don't feel judged. I think especially in the beginning, because I'm in Keep Growing now, but I started out with the initial Activate Vitality program with learning more about ACT and learning more about my values and boundaries and getting unstuck. I need that support. Like, even with the Facebook posts, like, what are your priorities this week? What are you grateful for? That stuff really does help. And again, it's like this magic of OT. That's not this huge, crazy thing. But I can see that when I'm not doing it, when I'm not engaging, when I don't have it, life is harder. I don't carve out time for myself as well. I don't set priorities as well. I don't think about the boundaries as well. So it's yeah,
More
like
into autopilot.
you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You really do. And so it's the accountability. It's like hearing other people's challenges and learning from them. People being able to give you like honest feedback, not in a weird way. It just honest. Oh yeah, I know you're thinking about doing that. That might be hard. And here's why. You're like, oh yeah, I could do that a different way. So honest feedback, the time and the connecting with other people. But I know I said it already, but I can get really lonely.
Yeah.
It gets lonely having your own practice.
Having to figure it out all on your own. How do
all
we
on
deal
your
with this
own.
new thing? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to create that. Do I need a form for that? Do I need to do that? Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so
and
many
you can
things.
so many things, and I know there are, like, Facebook groups that you can ask questions on, but I'm not that person, and I find that when I read some of the stuff on those groups, I question sometimes the validity
Yeah.
of responses. So, the other piece to this is legit. This is real. I can see the faces. I know your qualifications.
Yeah.
So I feel confident. And when I'm coming to the group with a question or a challenge, that the answers I'm getting back are like, it's good feedback.
Yeah. You know the context, you know where those people are, whether they're
Yes.
bringing something from another country and another system, or they're from similar systems to you, or how you might integrate those things, but that these aren't irresponsible people because you've gotten to know them. It's a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a community and there are faces. And I guess there's accountability on both ends, right? If somebody gives me advice, but they're in another country, they're going to say that. No, I'm here, but it is where I am. Or I'm in the US, but I'm cash based. I can give you my feedback, but it might look a little bit different for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
It's so you asked me earlier too, the group calls specifically have evolved over time. What has evolved, I can say more clearly has evolved over time is who I help. And whereas initially it wasn't even for OTs initially. And then it was for helping professionals. And then it was all the OTs who showed up. And then it turned out that the kind of OTs who needed this the most were OTs with businesses, solo practitioners. And then it got clearer to me too that helping OTs go get out of the gates from nothing to starting wasn't my sweet spot. I've certainly done it with people, but it's a different struggle than these OTs who are like, okay, I got to practice, but I need to make it work for me. Or I've been an OT for a long time. I'm not new at this. Like I've got a certain level of confidence in my skills, but now I need to adapt it because I need to make this work better for me. I need to customize it to my neurodivergence, to my health needs, to my family needs, to my kind of transition and awareness of where I'm at. But the sweet spot tends to be in that adaptation customization. Not to say that I'd turn away people who are starting, but if the real pain point is I'm terrified to start, it might not be the place that we get the most traction. I've done that like with some businesses in Canada, like that I'll do that a little bit one-on-one or that sort of thing. But as I'm like evaluating where we have the most success, it does tend to be this mid-career already got something going and let's customize and make this really good. Let's not be lonely. Let's make intentional choices. Let's use some skills like ACT to set boundaries, be clearer about values, not get swept away by the emotions or the emotional thinking that can drive some of our autopilot in ways that aren't that intentional, that aren't moving us in the direction we really want to be moving. so that ultimately we want to have more energy. We want to have more vitality. That's the reason I called it that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back to the values, I think like really recognizing what your values are and having that drive you. I almost joined another coaching practice a year when I first started for business owners. Just very different culture.
Yeah.
Was very set on how much money you want to make and how to do more and more and more and more and more. And like that feeling just makes me want to like crawl under a table. Like I just no, I don't think that feels right. I don't think I want that. I don't want 5 clinics. I don't want to see 10 people a day. Like I want my walk in the morning. I want to take my kids to school and I want to be out at a nice time. And that doesn't feel, I think in other places, I might feel afraid to say that, like, for fear of judgment, like I should be doing more, but when you say that
You're
in a
keeping yourself
call.
small. Don't keep
Yeah,
yourself small.
yeah.
That's small thinking.
Yes. Yes. I don't feel judged. It's like everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, we're all doing this for different reasons, and you should get paid. And we definitely go in and pay attention to where you might be putting in way more time and not enough earning enough. And we get into that. Like we want to have good efficiency for your time, but ultimately most of us aren't there for scaling giant businesses. And yet you are scaling, right?
I am.
You've hired other staff to do this stuff. There is that. But ultimately for you, it's more about freeing you up so that this business makes money and it can free you up to do some of those passion projects.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. I appreciate you being here. Do you have time to answer the last few questions I always ask? Okay. What does being brave mean to you?
I think so I thought about this. I knew it was coming. So being brave means to me doing things differently from what you've been shown or what other people are around you are doing. You don't have to do it that way. But it does take some bravery, like to step outside of that because it is a little bit, it's uncomfortable to be like, you guys are all together in that, and I'm going to walk this way. Yeah.
Trailblazing is seldom like skipping down easily down the easy path. It's actually, oh, this is a bit uncharted. It's a little bit scary. I don't know what's down that path, but I know it's important.
I know it's important. And I know that there is another path to be created, right? Everybody's on this nice path that's been carved out and paved over, but here's all of this other land over here that's going somewhere. There's places that we can carve a path. So yeah, don't be afraid.
Yeah. Or be afraid and go anyways.
Yeah. Yes. That really is it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you are afraid,
You are. Yeah.
you are
It's vulnerable.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But do it anyways.
What's something brave that you've done recently?
I think not necessarily it's an ongoing process, but hiring therapists. That felt brave looking back on it because I've never been a supervisor. I've never managed people. I'm a fairly new business owner.
Yeah. You've been navigating some vulnerable conversations beautifully
Yes.
and authentically. So it's not easy
Yeah.
conversations when you're being a
Not
leader in your
easy.
business.
No. And so that goes along with having employees, like having these vulnerable conversations that I've never had to have. And within that, making sure that the people that I'm having these conversations with know that I value them.
Yeah.
Like I want to keep that relationship strong. And then also realizing that, okay, I also have to set some boundaries. And so what does that look like? And so new things all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And finding your way like that. Like you can think about different employment situations you've been in and the way leaders have spoken to you and what's felt supportive and what's not felt supportive. And how do you want to create the culture within your business and how you want to support people and how you want to meet people where they are and meet the needs of the business and finding that voice. And I know we talked about that Dare to Lead, the Brene Brown book too, right? And she talks in there about clear is kind. And we often think that if we're being clear, that's too pushy or people are going to be upset but no, if we establish this kind of culture of kindness and honesty, we can have hard conversations and people feel supported.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be bad.
No.
But I think or at least I was taught that in various ways in my life that like boundaries or setting expectations had to be done in this negative, harsh way or that it meant something bad. But I think that like it can also be love. Like I'm showing that I care for you by setting this, and I'm caring for myself by setting this boundary. And I'm learning. Like I'm not an expert on this at all, but I'm getting
Yeah.
better.
Yep, totally.
Getting
Totally.
better.
That's really good. And how would you like to see OTs be a little bit more brave? You answered too in the last bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think along that line, I mentioned going in a different direction. I would like to see OTs being a little bit more brave in not allowing other professions to dictate how you treat and what you do, and having confidence in saying, I'm an occupational therapist. I'm an OT. I'm not like a PT. I'm not under a PT. I am an occupational therapist, and that is its own thing. Don't let other professions dictate what you do. Stand firm in our profession. It's it's amazing. It has a lot to offer. Don't let other people tell us who we are.
Don't put nobody puts baby in the corner.
Exactly. Yes, yes. Don't put OT in the corner.
Oh.
Yeah.
If people feel a call to reach out for you, maybe they want to collaborate, maybe they just want to share something, or maybe they're local and they would like some services or not local and are curious, how can they reach out to you? How would you like them to connect with you?
Oh, yeah. I have a website, authenticlivingot.com. And within that, there is a contact me form, or they can email me at info@authenticlivingot.com. That's the best way. And I love I love talking to other people about this. I love when OTs reach out and new people who might need services.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much for being on the Brave OT podcast. This is a really good conversation. I always say I'm trying to have more half-hour conversations and I just can't seem to.
And you picked the wrong person to have. I can't either. Thank you.
Thank you. So many of us neurodivergent OTs have spent our careers trying to fit into systems that were not designed for how our brains work, for our sensory systems, for how our values need to align deeply. And there's something both brave and necessary about saying, I'm going to create something that actually works for me. Her reminder that neurodivergent adults need us, not coaches, not counselors, but occupational therapists, is something I hope every OT takes to heart. You already have what you need to start helping these populations. The question isn't whether you're qualified enough, it's whether you're ready to trust your OT lens and step into that work. This conversation sparked something in you. I would love to hear about it in the Brave OT Facebook group. And if you're ready to build your own version of a practice with the kind of community support that Breanna talks about, it's mid-September 2025, and we are currently accepting new clients into the Activate Vitality program. So if you're an OT business owner who's listening and hearing this and really wants to reach out, please do so right away. And if you hear this at another time, it's something you really need, do let me know. There's often something we can do to figure things out. I've just created an analysis report of we've been doing in Activate Vitality for the last couple of years. So I will also link that resource down in the show notes for you to learn a little bit more about the magic that happens in here. Please take a moment to review this podcast if this episode was helpful and share it with a couple of friends. We really appreciate you listening and want to make sure this gets to the people who need to hear it most. As always, be brave, OTs.